In the 1920s, the word flapper described a young woman who rebelled against morality. The gangster and the rebellious and fun-loving flapper was a product of 1920s urban America. Most American women were not flappers, but the flapper's shocking behavior set a tone that helped many women explore jazz-age freedoms without fear. Skirts only revealed the knee briefly between 1926 and 1928, and this was the only period when evening dresses were in short in line with day dress lengths. This was the flapper fashion era. These young women were described as frivolous risk-takers. They wanted to break away from societal norms. This new breed of flappers listened to the new jazz sound and danced provocatively at jazz clubs. They did it freely and were very careless. Women in this era drove cars, rode bicycles, and drank alcohol openly during the Prohibition era. Some flappers indulged in cigarette use, some even used cocaine. Flappers of the 1920s are best known for their style. At the time when corsets, long hair, and long gowns were normal, flappers introduced a more boyish look. Young women showed off their legs in short skirts, chopped their hair off into short bobs, and wore excessive amounts of makeup. Kohl-rimmed eyes and bee-stung lips set the flappers apart from the rest. Accessories included newsboy caps, cloche hats, layered necklaces, and horn-rimmed glasses. High heels came into fashion and dresses were often drop-waisted, and knee-length to show off just enough leg when flappers danced. The 1920s saw a universal fashion for short hair, a more radical move beyond the current styles of the war era. Hair was first bobbed, then shingled, then etched and cropped in 1926. During the era, there was an increased use of makeup, and it was fashionable to perform the rites of makeup in public. Instead of disappearing to the powder room, women got out their engraved compact and applied lipstick on powder in sight of a whole restaurant or nightclub or tea room. Heels were over 2 inches high and waisted until the 1930s. Strap shoes were called Mary Janes. T-bar shoes or other with buckles, bows made interesting fashion statements. The flapper fashion style flourished amid in the middle classes, negating differences between themselves and the truly rich, but continuing to highlight some differences with the really poor. The rich still continued to wear beautifully embellished silk garments for evening, but the masses reveled in their newfound sophistication of very fashionable flapper clothes.
The time, the 1920s. The place, urban America. It was a time of turbulent social change, a time of high living and high spending. In the big cities, dandies and flappers, awash with cash, lived the high life.
A 10-year party broke out, the Roaring 20s. The crazes of the 20s reflected the attitude of a people determined to enjoy prosperous times. Flappers in bobbed haircuts dancing the Charleston, the rise of jazz and blues music,
The 1920s was the first decade of female emancipation, and women were not slow in making their mark on the gangster scene. The gangsters had their families, but they also had their girlfriends, also called a moll. Many women must have found the wealth and power of the mobster attractive, but danger was another allure, which gangsters knew and knew how to use. The malls of the speakeasies should not be overlooked in any history of how gangsters changed America. But for malls and their mob boyfriends alike, the bootleg years were about to come to a sudden end.